Peace be with you. Y'all, I am pretty irritated, and when I'm irritated, I'm inspired. So I did some more Book of Mormon. Because I learned, right? I learned this from reading the comments that within LDS, the paradigm, tell me, can anyone answer or articulate with me with ruthless clarity? And you can utilize whatever explanations and articulations you desired. However, can someone please explain why, or the gender that has held the positions defined and labeled within the paradigm as president, prophet, or the apostles, I believe is what I'm familiar with if I remember the terminology. The quorum of the apostles, can someone tell me and explain with ruthless clarity to the depths of infinity and back why women aren't included in that? Because I'm so juxtaposed, I'm so confused by it, because everything I've seen and experienced, I've never seen a paradigm do what LDS has done. And so I was shocked. I was shocked that women weren't a part of it. I was like, wait, this is a dick club. Like, where are the women? How many women have held that position before, right? LDS, like, yo pioneered women's suffrage, man. That whole fractal opened up. And when I learned that last night, I was like, what? I was like blown away. I was perturbed. I was like, no way. Like, why is this? Like, where did this occur? Like, when has women not demonstrated to have the capacity to articulate themselves to the depths of what can be defined as authority to have revelation? Like, and so that perturbed me, because I'm aware that I'm a female. My perception is female. And so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing these, because for all the women out there that have never had the opportunity to have a seat at the table. Oh, I've met so many, like, that's what drew me to LDS, actually, from when I actually started deep diving it more once I went to the service, was because I've never seen so many women be welcomed to lead so many things within a paradigm that is often defined as a religion. Like, wow, like, I've never seen that, because I grew up exposed to, like, fundamental Baptist, perhaps Catholicism, those type vibes, and women were like, you sing in the choir and you support your husband. You don't get to go behind the pulpit. You don't get to go on the stage unless you're singing a song or playing the piano, right? LDS, man, they let people get up there and speak. Even at the general conference meeting, there was a beautiful woman in purple that was speaking on the part of the guest panel, and I was just like, and a lot of them talked about women, but then for some reason, women are absent from the entire infrastructure of leadership. What? Anyways, so that inspired me. So I might go all down whimsies talking about things in the Book of Mormon, because again, this book, y'all, well, the Book of Ether, to be quite frank, most certainly has a Nobel Prize within it. And that's why I can't wait till my Catholic book to come, because every book has all these layers and nuances. Every book describes the same fundamental movement patterns that are occurring at the quantum level. And so every book has discovery and innovation in it. And it just depends, though, on, you know, who recognizes how extraordinary they are to be able to perceive it. So we're going to do that. I'm going to keep doing examples, y'all, because I'm perturbed about how the paradigm itself doesn't recognize how extraordinary it is. So I'm going to, like, force you guys to see how extraordinary you guys are by reading all this cool stuff from your own stuff. Oh, it's so good. So I picked Alma chapter 30 because I asked ChatGPT, because I wasn't sure, because not many people are giving me, like, suggestions per se on what, like, specific places to read. And so I was like, you know what? ChatGPT, name some of the most popular places in the Book of Mormon. And it gave me Alma chapter 30. And I was like, okay, let's go there. And so I made it Christmas colors because it talked about the Antichrist and Christ. And is that not red and blue, or red and green? red and blue is the police, not bad boys. This is Christmas. And I even drew, look, 3 little crosses, right? To kind of go with the vibes of what's going on. Okay. So I'm going to just start here, and it flows, y'all. Again, I'm going to do it. There's different layers. Yeah, even 6-7 makes an appearance in here, y'all. It says 6-6-7-7. That's like 6-7, 6-7, like back and forth, right? How it's positioned. I have them highlighted here. Like the 6-7, and then goes 6-7. Anyways, just a coinkydink. Let me start this off. Let's go inspire some LDS leadership to perhaps, you know, have a conversation with me. Invite me for a Christmas conversation. That'd be fun. I love you guys. I'm trying to like talk to you guys about how extraordinary you are and to help you guys perceive how, you know, all the miracles within your own framework. And honestly, I feel pretty disrespected that leadership hasn't extended me an invite nor reached out to me. And so because of that, I'm about to go to town rapping out some words here and how fun and whimsy I'm doing until I get communication from the people I desire. Anyways, let's go. This is fun. This whole thing talks about, like, there's some good stuff in here, right? This is truly a Christmas present that I'm giving to y'all early, because apparently it's Christmas season. Once Thanksgiving happens, right? The day that is defined as thanks, right? All the thanks gets poured out yesterday. Now we're in Christmas mode. We've crossed the threshold. Poor Thanksgiving. Like all the stores, there's like no, like the Christmas decorations were out like almost at Halloween. Okay, so the people established the dead by the land. Oh, the first verse is good. This is the first verse. After Ammo and Ers were out of the land, the buried people ... because the people established the dead by the land. And it goes into verse 1 because it's talking about here, right? After Ammo and Ers were out of the land, meaning once human technology and innovation has gotten so advanced with how much it understands, ammo as in like bang bang, won't necessarily be utilized as frequently nor as commonly as it is today. And Ers will not be used as frequently nor visited as commonly as it is today, due to the amount of misunderstanding that propagates and spills over and overwhelms the physical body. Science is very familiar with the problems and stress of of the problems of stress. It has physiological changes, and science and everyone most certainly knows what ammo does to a body. Don't need to belittle that point. So this verse is basically saying, after the species gets to a point, a threshold of cognitive capacity where they demonstrate that the actions follow, right? Once Ammo and Ers were out of the land, the buried people, right? That's talking about dead people. The buried people, the people that figured out how to cognitively advance and evolve beyond the utilization of frequent visits of Ammo and Ers, the people established the dead by the land, meaning by the ether. By land is existence, right? Land is tangible reality. We'll go to verse 2 because it goes to ... because it's hinting at a lot of good stuff there. ... Now the dead were not dead, but passed their days mourning the judges over the people. That sounds fun. I believe this is one of the paradigms that believes in life after death, or something along those lines. Do they not? So this is saying, verse 2, Nephi, we're on to Alma. Whoever Alma is, coincidentally spells Al, Ma-Al. Anyways, those are coincidental, A-L-M-A. What can you make from those initials? Am, we already established Am means love. A-L, Lama. Ooh, llama. Who doesn't like llamas? Who doesn't like loving llamas? Or Alabama? Or Alcoholics Anonymous? Or lamenting millennials? Okay, anyway, sorry. I'm having so much fun exploring just the letters. I was looking at the A-L-M-A there. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Sorry, I digress. Now the dead were not dead, but passed their days mourning the judges over the people. Y'all, it sounds like they're sitting up wherever they're at, and they're just like, bah. I bet they actually have a really good gambling ring going on, being like, what's gonna happen next? Like, they're probably having a good time. Passing their days mourning the judges over the people. Probably because they're just watching like cosmic oopsies after cosmic oopsies of opportunity that gets presented to those that are defined as leading the people. Judges over the people, right? Those are people in positions of authority. That's a bummer. The greatness of numbers were numbered. The dead fast and pray. There began to be continual peace throughout all the land. Because, right, verse 2 is basically saying the dead are basically sitting around twirling their thumbs, waiting for verse 1 to occur, which is where the people figure out that ammo and ERs were driven out of the land, and the buried people, or the people were able to utilize perhaps certain innovations and nuances of things to have some fun whimsies with people that are defined as dead. Okay? Again, this is not my words. This is Alma's words. This is in the text. Maybe I should like put like a little screenshot here so people can see and take a screenshot of that so they can like look at it so they can read it out. Or maybe I'll write it in the comment section, right? The sentences going out, because I made this all whimsy on purpose because it's Christmassy, right? This whole thing is like very Christmassy. It's talking about people coming back from the dead. It's talking about a time when ammo and hospitals, like trauma, it sounds like physical trauma and stuff won't be as utilized as frequently as it is. Then it talks about the buried people, what they do, what they're up to. And the greatness of numbers were numbered, meaning it sounds like infinity doesn't necessarily stay defined as infinity because a lot more information gets understood. Numbers were numbered. The greatness of numbers were numbered, meaning math sounds like it gets some upgrades. Math sounds like it gets some new levels of understanding. And then this though, like, the dead fast and pray. There began to be continual peace throughout all the land. Yeah. And that's the first mention of 6. I think it was like 6, 7, 6, 7. Oh, it's funny. Okay, let's go to verse 3. Yea, and the people did observe. Yeah, I can agree with that because I'm aware of, people are quite confused because they're like, does she support us? Does she not like us? I like everything. Is that not like familiar? I love LDS based on what I've experienced. And so when I become irritated by things I learn about that go against what I've perceived, I'm like, wait a second, no, that's completely opposite of what you guys demonstrate and like what you guys teach. And so I get upset. So now I'm going on whimsies. So that's why I keep sticking around, because like I love you guys, but that doesn't mean that like, because again, I say my beliefs are acknowledgement of effort, because there's so many beautiful religions. To commit to one and to just say this is the only one I like and desire to explore and to just be inspired by is doing me a disservice, because revelation happens anywhere, man. Like you could be watching like a porno and figure out a new innovation, right? Who knows? That's maybe where tampons or like chapstick got invented from, or like Sharpies. I don't know, right? People do weird things. People find, not weird things. People find inspiration in all sorts of extraordinary ways. If that's not, true, like here now. Oh, speaking of which, actually. Speaking of all this, my neighbor, because we went out to Thanksgiving last night. Oh, so much fun. Or lunch yesterday. Hey, Pooties. She just got back from Germany because someone was working with her husband, because her husband's developing a company or an idea, but this person is so invested in wanting to be a part of the idea and turning it into like some sort of software that he paid for both of them to fly out to Germany, and then he paid for her trip back because she's just tagged along because she had nothing to do. So he's like, yeah, I'll fly you out here too. He flew her back to the US on the most expensive travel day of the year. And I was like, dude, this dude is really behind wanting to work with y'all. He was like, right? That shows extreme effort there, right? But she was talking about how she visited Dachau, And all the things that she talked about, and my mind lit up with so much data that is just untouched, because the tragedy of like what occurred in Dachau and all those other places and under that realm, right? It was a true extermination and a very efficient extermination of human beings and human life. And it started from very similar concepts that are being spoken about. It starts from one moment, right? The first seed of something going Swiss cheese theory and people lacking discernment is when they can't perceive the totality of existence in another human being as sacred or reverent, right? That is a unique and extraordinary existence. And I get extremely perturbed when I see people talk about other people contrary and contrasting to what is in the own doctrine and what I've perceived. And it just blows my mind. Anyways, not that I'm comparing LDS to that. Sorry. Oh, the innovation. Yeah, so the Dachau, she was telling me her stories, and she talked about how like everyone that came in, they literally took two complete data records of their name, their possessions, where they're from, their date, blah, blah, blah. They took two data points, I guess 2 parts. But that sits on so much data. You can talk about the different names of people, the different heritages, what type of like the political people that they took, because Jewish people weren't the first people to be rounded up and killed, or anyone that didn't meet the criteria of what Hitler and his people defined as matching their political interests. They wanted everyone to be standard and identical. They wanted the exact same way of thinking, which I'd argue, like, humans have always thought the same way, so technically it's still existing. But they wanted it really, really, like, they were basically trying to make their version of reality. And so that's why it's so fascinating, though. But, like, all that data they saved, I said, you can run so much analytical stuff on that data of those names that they took. You can map out different patterns. Even so, also, like, she told me too, like the Dachau, how the paradigm of Nazism utilized, they would release prisoners, I guess, every year or two. They would pardon someone, or every month, I forget what it was. They would like literally give people back their stuff at that camp or around at other camps, and let them go. Apparently, that's what the guards were teaching, or the tour guides. And I was just like, wow, that's actually brilliant marketing as far as the paradigm of Nazism went, because, right, for a guard to be working in that environment and to be constantly, right, because these people, right, when you're told something and you fully believe in it and everyone believes in it, you get into this state of like, hey, I don't want to be different. Like, being different is bad. Being different is not safe. And so, but understandable, like, right, these guards, these Nazi guards are humans too, and they were doing they were aware things were dissonant in them. They could perceive that what was being spoken to them and what was being demonstrated was leading to a state of internal dissonance. And in order to subside and to keep that dissonance at an adequate level of maintenance, of camaraderie, of community, they performed like acts of like salvation, basically, of letting someone go that they were, like utilizing as slaves and killing them, right? And they didn't, that were deemed and labeled as bad. However, they were being let go to try to prevent too much dissonance from building up. Like, oh, see, we are doing something good. We're just trying to like remediate them or whatever, Anywho, I got off track on that. Oh yeah, but I was talking about, so even from like scary experiences like that, right? There is a huge tragedy and atrocity that occurred. But it really, if you look at the thought process and logic behind how that paradigm behaved, there's a lot of data there that is so extraordinary onto how to prevent that sort of thought from propagating into action. And then also the country of Germany was defined as Germany. Their government is actually truly extraordinary because it's mandatory to teach that and to take field trips to those locations. However, it's not being utilized to its full depth because it's trying to focus on the harm that comes in there, right? Because it's a very hands down, it's a reverent and sacred place because of what occurred there. And for the country of Germany to take that and to implement it into their education system to even children is extraordinary, because it shows, hey, this is something that happened in history. Instead of repeating it and trying to hide it or condemning it, or let's learn about it. So we teach you guys discernment, because in the future, if we teach you guys now what occurs when thoughts get too inspirational, or people get too inspired by their curiosity to do certain things, sometimes it gets too far and this results. And that's a perfect way to teach discernment, man. You can't fake that level of discernment, because then in the future, right? And also for the adults, it helps them practice. How do we take something that is very tragic and physically barbaric to the extreme depths of humanity, right? People that went through that, they questioned the concept of the existence of God because of things like that, and Vietnam War and stuff, right? Those are the types of things that make people go into nihilism and kill themselves, because they're like, anything is better than what I have witnessed, because this is not something that was meant to ever occur or happen, right? And so to be able to understand and utilize those things, to allow children to experience it and be able to explain that to kids in a way where they understand why it occurred and how they can facilitate their own discernment for things that they encounter in their own lives. That's just extraordinary. And then also the level of innovation that the Nazis did, right? Their logistical infrastructure and bookkeeping and stuff was just truly very unique for the time period. That's how they were so they were so successful at first, because they pursued innovation. They were so innovative from the get-go very rapidly. They utilized all sorts of things. And so it's important to also assess that aspect of it, because then if you see and perceive those patterns early, you can be able to identify it and explain it and have open dialogue to prevent it from cascading further. I have no idea where I was. That was a whimsy. I think I was talking about the dead people. That's where that came from. Okay, verse 3. Yea, and the people did observe. Oh, that's I think where I started. They were strict in observing that's what it says. Yea, and the people did observe. So verse 3, it was really good. They were strict in observing the law, for they were taught to keep the law until it should be fulfilled. Right? That is the most extraordinary thing, and that's what the surface layer of all these books have been doing, right? When you read it just at face value, even when you dive a little bit too, right? But keeping of the law was required until a certain level of learning had been accomplished and been demonstrated, right? The human species has demonstrated, especially the paradigm of LDS has demonstrated, they've kept the law so fervently well. However, now you've passed that learning modality. You've exceeded the learning environment that included diving deep and talking about strict observance of what is defined as the law, because until they were taught to keep the law until it should be fulfilled, right? How do you get something to be fulfilled, a greater level of understanding, if you don't try to expand your level of thought and knowledge? Okay, so yes, they were strict in observing the law. They were taught to keep the law until it should be fulfilled, right? And in the negative space, the part, it says, keep the commandments of the Lord and the ordinance of God according to Moses. Yes, that has been done, right? They were taught to do that until it should be fulfilled, into a greater level of explanation and understanding and introduction of something of greater context is given, right? The next lesson is given. Surely that's not happening. Anywho, the people did have disturbance in all the judges over the, the people did have disturbance in all the judges over the people. Meaning the people were very confused and distraught, right? The judges over the people in charge of things are probably shaking and being very in their boots based on some of the things I'm saying from within your own doctrine, right? Again, I'm trying to help you guys to see how extraordinary you are. And that's perhaps causing some disturbance in the judges over the people. because again, due to historical data and due to longitudinal outcomes, certain genders aren't actually shouldn't be able to do this, let alone someone that doesn't exist within the paradigm itself. So it makes it even more fun and whimsy. Isn't this fun? It makes it exciting for me too, right? Because I'm just flying on the edge of my seat too, y'all. I'm having a whimsy. I have no idea what's going to happen. Okay. And thus the year came to pass in commencement of peace. Oh, that sounds nice, right? Because the people did have disturbance in all the judges over the people. Well, it sounds like a lot of people were either really excited, confused, scared, just feeling something and being like, yo, there's something happening and I'm tuning in. And thus the year came to pass in commencement of peace. Well, that sounds lovely. That sounds like a future thing though. Because again, linear time gets nuanced, right? People always assume that everyone looks at it at the same scales and meaning. However, if there's confusion, right? Sometimes people say stuff and I just go along, right? I go along with whatever anyone presents back to me, and I normally just like play on whatever they present. I don't actually present anything new. I just expand what's already there. And so this concept of commencement of peace, who knows when that's going to happen, right? That's a time scale, because right now we got a long way to go, y'all. Okay, verse 5 going into 6, which is coincidentally where 6-7's occurring, the end of 6-7. Okay, of the judges in the latter, I thought that was funny. Of the judges in the latter, because this is called the Latter-day Saints, right? Which I didn't realize the Church of Christ was a thing, and the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints is a thing. And I was like, oh, I just like, I believe I recognized that those were different. However, I didn't pick up on it. I just thought one was like an official title and one was like more of like a colloquial title. They're two very separate things, distinct things, right? But of the judges in the latter I guess implies the end of days, the latter days. So of the judges, of the leadership in the latter, a man began to preach unto the people against which had been spoken. Huh. Surely not. Oh, although contrast is really fun. Surely that would be kind of odd, right? If like, because I'm aware I'm a curious outsider, right? That's just kind of like whimsy and just happy, really happy. Even when I'm sad and irritated, I'm happy, right? Yeah, y'all, I'm irritated. Oh, I should tell y'all, actually, I'm irritated. Last night, I put the video on private because I was just venting because I was upset and I was confused as to why the occurrence occurred, why the opportunity was given to me. Because when I went to the LDS house that my Mormon friends I was excited about to go stop by, no one answered the door, even though I was standing there and I saw someone inside and people inside. I didn't see someone I was familiar with. I just perceived people inside. And someone came down to the foyer to come to a toddler, and I pressed the doorbell and I tried to open the door, but it was like locked. And I was like nervous because I was like, oh, should I walk in? I don't know. And so when I pressed the Ring doorbell, which I'm aware that it was like there's a party going on, things like that. Anyways, no one ever came to the door. And I just kind of felt like, and after I perceived the person in there walk away and ignore me, and I saw a sign that said no soliciting. And so I just kind of felt like awkward standing there when no one like received me or like opened the door. So I just left. And I was like pretty upset. I was pretty upset. And I was like, oh, like, so that's when I decided to be inspired. And then that's when I found out coincidentally that no women have ever sat on the upper tiers of the echelons of leadership of within the paradigm. And I was like, what? And so that's what I'm doing these for. So anyways, of the judges in the latter, a man began to preach unto the people against which had been spoken. So I'm sure once the upper tiers of leadership perceive these videos, if they haven't already, which by this point they probably should have at this frequency and rate, someone's going to try to say something negative about me or the content of my video. But then that wouldn't look good, because then it's just like, she's talking about how extraordinary we are and you're trying to talk negative about her. It's not a good look, man. It's not a good look. Let's not do that. Let's try to avoid that. Let's try to avoid what perhaps other paradigms have done and demonstrated. There came into the land AC. And it's your little Christmas tree, right? Because what season are we in? Christmas. Cold, right? It gets chilly. Little snowflakes. I even drew little snowflakes in there. Okay. Verse 7. Oh, and this is where it gets fun, because this is probably some of the back conversations or thoughts that people are having. There was no law against belief, right? Because my belief is acknowledgement of effort. There was no law against belief, for it was strictly to the commands that there be a law which should bring men onto equal grounds. Huh. Yeah, I can see that, right? And it shows, a man's contrary of God should saith the scripture. That was me continuing on from, of the judges of the latter, a man began to speak unto the people against which had been spoken. A man's contrary of God should saith the scriptures, right? Because, right, I purposely, I have wine in my background. I talk about how I drink, how I drugs. Oh, I should put a dippy in. My nicotine pouches, my coffee, right? All these things are just paradoxical. And this level of clarity and this level of whimsy and fun and inspiration and awe and wonder shouldn't come from someone like me, right? Against all things. And that's what's so beautiful about it, because what I'm basically doing, and y'all, I do it on purpose, because it invokes a state of discomfort, for one, right? Because it has to be uncomfortable for someone within the paradigm to perceive all these things. So it makes you get comfortable. It makes you address fear while being in a place of familiarity and security, right? Because you get to watch these videos from wherever you're at, from the comfort of your home, from in bed, from with your spouse, from people you feel safe or secure at, right? But you're being exposed to things that perhaps would make you feel more uncomfortable if you were literally physically present, right? Like to be offered alcohol or things like that, or to be challenged on that. I'm not trying to challenge people outright on saying, why don't you drink alcohol? Why don't you do that? Because I think that's extraordinary, right? That takes a profound level of resilience to withdraw from opportunity of learning, right? It's hard, right? Everyone has their favorite learning modalities, but I'm trying to demonstrate that all learning, everything demonstrates the capacity for learning. And so by people even tuning in, I think it's extraordinary that, right, you're being exposed to uncomfortable things. However, you're still engaged and you're still willing to sit in potential, arguably, discomfort, which is helping you grow. That's neurogenesis. That's called learning, and you're having understanding and all these great cognitive factors that are coming along. I hope people start sharing more stories and stuff. I'm getting some good emails too. So yes, I'm aware that, right, technically I'm not doing anything against the paradigm per se, right? But then also at the same time, it's like I don't fit into any neat boxes, so that confuses a lot of people. Even external to the paradigm, I don't fit into anything. And so that's what I love about being in a state of undefined, because I don't desire to say anyone's wrong or right, because everyone's extraordinary. Everything's miraculous. Everything has a place and a purpose, right? If it exists, it has a purpose. If it didn't have a purpose, it wouldn't exist. Like nature doesn't just go on whimsies for no reason. Everything serves a purpose at some way, shape, or form. Big, little, small, at every scale, something serves a purpose. And so I love when humans, it's so much fun, especially this time in like the cognitive growth capacity. They always get so puzzled, but so that the curiosity overwhelms them, because I don't ever fit into any labels. And it draws you in even more, being like, what's actually happening? Like, wait, I want to understand this, because like it's different, it's novel. And it's like, yes, it's called a new level of thinking that's available to the species that everyone already has demonstrated they're capable of, yet they're unaware that they have. Anyways, so this is just demonstrations of that. And so hopefully people can utilize this and teach it to others, right? So you guys can see and re-experience over and over again every single day that childlike state of awe and wonder about everything that you do. Man, like, when I want a source of inspiration, I go to the Mormons, because y'all are so inspiring. Actually, well, when I really want inspiration, I go hang out with the homeless, because they have a good time. They have some of the greatest stories to share. But I mean, actually, I have a hard time. Sometimes I stay in my home because I get so curious, and I just go talk to people, and meet so many cool people. Everywhere I go, I just meet people, and I love hearing their stories about everything they do. Like one of the guys I'm emailing about the Book of Mormon, giving me his synopsis and reading it, man. He's basically, we're doing like a book club, and we're just having these great thoughts. He's basically like doing like a college level course engagement and research and effort towards better understanding and learning. And he's doing an extraordinary effort articulating himself, doing all this research, and he has a job. Like he's an entrepreneur. He started a company and he works another job. And I'm like, and he's pursuing all these like hobbies on his own. And I'm like, dude, you're a modern day Renaissance man. So it doesn't surprise me you're a member of LDS, because from its origin and get-go, y'all have always been a people that just have extraordinary effort, right? That's why there's a high level. Y'all should actually run a study on this. There's a high level of like disproportionate amount of physicians and scientists and like STEM related careers and things that are viewed as like successful and like contributing, innovative to society, right? There's a high number of them in LDS. And y'all, we should make a study club and be like exploring STEM, the STEM of the Book of Mormon, because y'all, there is some technology and advancement in here that is like Gucci. Okay, I digress. Where was I at? I only did 12 verses, and I was like, this is far enough, and I'm 36 minutes in, and I want to do this all day. I'm just gonna pop out videos like popcorn. Okay, verse 9. Now, if a man desired to serve, it was his privilege. If he believed, it was his privilege to serve. But if he did not believe, there was no law to punish him. Like, how do you punish someone when you say to them, like, you're going to hell, or like God's like you're sinning, like you need to step away from that. You need to get baptized. You need to physically do this in order to, join us, to receive the revelation, enlightenment, to feel what other words you guys utilize, right? And what I'm trying to say is like, I necessarily don't like when people tell me I need to do something, if you couldn't tell. When someone tells me it can't be done, all I heard was, I can do this. When someone says impossible, I say, okay, well, here is clear proof that it's possible. What's your next question? What's your next challenge? What else is not possible? What else cannot be done? So if a man desired, and the utilization of the word men, right? It's very common to utilize the word man to describe the species. It doesn't literally mean just the male gender, which I think a lot of paradigms invoke to, because if a man came about and wrote, if woman desired to serve God, it was her privilege, or rather, if she believed in God, it was her privilege to serve her, or serve him, or God. No, you know what? Maybe God, her. But if she did not believe in her, there was no law to punish her. Do we see how the gender really changes the perception there about who it applies to and the assumptions that come off of that? So if you generalize it, so now if a human desired to serve God, it was the human's privilege. Or rather, if the human believed in God, it was the human's privilege to serve God. But if the human did not believe in God, there was no law to punish him, the human, right? How do you punish, how do you invoke someone to be like, you're condemned? And they're like, well, thank you. What do I win? What's my prize? Oh my gosh, that actually reminds me of a story, because there was a point in my time when I did try to date men. This was in college. This was my first boyfriend, actually. My first real boyfriend, my first real relationship. Gave me a promise ring. Super nice guy. Super handsome, beautiful man from West Virginia. We were dating for 2 years or something like that. And he went on a trip to Ukraine. because he was like a immersion trip over the Christmas. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to Ukraine? That's so much fun. He was going with 2 of his bros and a faculty or whatever, like an immersion trip. They did it all the time at the college. I went home to visit my family, and I went to Alabama, Huntsville, where the space camp is. And so he loved space. And so I went and got him all sorts of goodies and like presents and stuff. And when we came back, and he told me a story, right? We like went to go meet and like exchange presents because he got back. I got back before him. We went to go exchange presents. And then he told me, I was like, hey, tell me about Ukraine. Like, blah, blah, blah. And he was telling me a story. He was like, well, like the other 2 guys, they hired prostitutes, but I didn't do it. And they had, and then I was like, okay, like, cause it's legal there, I guess, right? It's a form of income. And so he talked about it all, like about all the entire process. Like, yeah, they had the shower, they had to get inspected, and then they were allowed to, it was gross. And then like one of the guys, he has a girlfriend though, and he cheated on her. And then I was like, okay, cool. Like, where are my presents? And he was like, I didn't get you anything. And I was like, what? So he just told me a story about, and all these details about how your 2 bros cheated or hired prostitutes and slept with prostitutes, and one of them had a girlfriend and cheated on her. And you told me that story, and then waited for my reaction. Because he did say, he was like, isn't that bad for his girlfriend? Like, do you think like you should tell her? And I was just like, well, I mean, no, I mean, that's their relationship, and the truth never gets hidden, right? Whatever, that's their journey. I have no desire to interfere with it. They're your friends. Like, I'm not going to go up to a random stranger and just be like, he cheated on you. But then I looked back on it the other day. I was driving and I was like, because that relationship ended. He ghosted me. He dumped me, and he never explained why. And it was shortly after that incident. And so I think, based on hindsight detail, I was like, I think he was confessing to me that he took part in it, and he wanted to perceive how I would react when he told me the story of one of them cheating on his girlfriend and how that dynamic was going. And I was like, I didn't care. I was just like, where are my presents? And so that reminds me, I was more perturbed that he didn't get me anything from when he went to visit a foreign country, and I got him like astronaut ice cream and like little stuff from like the space center. Oh, I was so bummed. And then I was like laughing actually the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think he cheated on me, and he was so ashamed or so embarrassed of it that he dumped me because I didn't care. Like I didn't condemn it. I didn't react in a negative way. I just like kept rolling on with the conversation. Like, okay, like cool story. Like, should I have asked how it was? Like, I don't know, right? Like, so that reminds me of that verse when it says, now if a man desired to serve, it was his privilege, or, but if he did not believe, there was no law to punish him, right? Like, how do you punish someone that doesn't necessarily isn't afraid of the concept or like of the devil, right? It's just like, okay, like I'm pretty sure the devil handed me my soapbox, right? Comes from everywhere. Everyone's just like, bro, here, take it. Like we're curious because we don't even know what's gonna happen, man. Here you go. I don't want to do anymore. I'm just gonna watch. So, anyways, and then the green part, the negative space of that, right? The other aspect of that verse says, God, or rather in God, him, and rather in him. Right? Because I'm taking this out. Yeah. Because it talks about, right? It plays on the gender stereotypes here, the assumptions of gender. Because it says, now if a man desired to serve, it was his privilege. If he believed, it was his privilege to serve. But if he did not believe, there was no law to punish him. And the negative space between that is God, or rather in God, him in him. So I can understand why perhaps the paradigm never thought or had the idea to allow a female to sit on an aspect of any type of leadership, defined as a leadership role that is described or labeled as prophet, president, or a part of the apostles. The quorum. Okay. Oh, this next verse, verse 10 is fun. Murder punished death. Rob was also punished. He was puny. He that committed adultery, he was punished. right? This is why it's good that this verse only talks about men, because women don't apply to this. Just like in verse 9, it talks about men. Verse 10, it utilizes the male gender pronoun of he. So this verse only applies, on the surface level, this verse only applies to men, not women. But if he murdered, he was punished unto death. But if he robbed, he was also punished. And if he stole, he was also punished. And if he committed adultery, he was also punished. Yea, for all his wickedness, they were punished. Well, it sounds like the men are in for a bad time. I'm just kidding. That's why the surface layer, we're past the surface layer though, right? Men aren't going to be punished. Men are humans too, guys, right? All wives matter, and so do all husbands. All lives matter. So that's why I said murder, punish, death. Yeah, murder was like, I'm over this, man. I'm not even gonna, I refuse it. Murder is boycotting death. So murder, punish, death. Right? Once awareness and understanding unite. Murder, punish, death. Rob was also punished, right? How many dudes, I guarantee you, there is a LDS member named Rob, or a dude in general named Rob, and he was punished for something or scolded for something because he was puny. He was made fun of. He was called dinky, right? Look at Kevin Hart. Look how short he is. Look how many jokes. Being a short man, it's like you develop Napoleon complex, right? You drive a big truck. You wear lifters in your heels or whatever, your shoes. You date women that don't like to wear heels, things like that, right? Puny men get punished all the time. And I guarantee you there's a short man named Rob, and he's being punished because he's puny. So, and he that committed adultery, he was punished. Adultery, I was laughing because adultery reminds me of adulting. So he that committed adulting, he was punished. Yeah, because you're punished. People that perceive that they lose that childlike state of wonder and awe, they go into adulting. They enter the state of childing versus adulting, right? Viewing the world through an adulting lens. They lose a certain level of awe and wonder that a child has. And it's so disheartening. And they continue to punish themselves by drowning in stress and all the pressures that they put on themselves based on what they perceive. So yeah, he that committed adulting, he was punished because he forgot the awe and wonder of being a kid. And I believe there's some other verses somewhere. I'm pretty sure it came from the Bible again, talking about kids, the childlike wonder of kids or something like that, the perception of the children. So I said, all thisness were shed. All this adultery, this murder, this death, this robbing, all this wickedness, it was shed. Right? Once a greater level of understanding was achieved. Verse 11, I didn't touch at all, except I did change a couple words around based on what they mean. But I'll read this one at the surface level because this one was good. Right? Alma was like, I'm just going to give you all a break and give you something straight on the surface for this one. For there was a law that men should be judged according to their crimes. Nevertheless, there was no law against the man's belief. Therefore, a man was punished only for the crimes which he had done. Therefore, all men were on equal grounds. So for there was a law that men should be judged across their crimes. Does that not sound like you will be acknowledged by your efforts, the fruits of your labor, right? You reap what you sow. Does that not give off those vibes? So, for there was a law, perhaps when it invokes a law like that, that invokes a state of like a natural order of existence. For there was a law that men should be acknowledged according to their efforts. Nevertheless, there was no law against a man's belief, against a man, how a man articulates and perceives the world. There is no law against how a man chooses to explore existence, right? Because natural laws love everything within existence. And so there is no law against a man's choice to think of how he believes. Therefore, that's why there's so much diversity, right? Therefore, a man was rewarded only for the efforts which he had done. Therefore, all men were on equal grounds. Therefore, all were on equal grounds, right? acknowledgement, nature has a natural law. Let me read this again. For there was a natural law of the universe that men should be acknowledged to their efforts. Nevertheless, there was no natural law against the human's belief, a man's belief, a child's belief of how they articulate and explain and explore existence. That's why so much diversity again exists, like simply within the human species, because there's no law that prevents, no natural law in existence that prevents a man from the right to existence itself. Therefore, there was no law against a man's belief. Therefore, a man was rewarded only for the efforts which he had done. Do you think Elon Musk would have accomplished what he had done if he did not put forth effort? Do you think I would have accomplished if what I have achieved if I did not put forth effort? I could sit around all day and think that is still putting forth effort, right? Effort is effort. That's why nature itself, existence itself, acknowledges effort. The more effort someone pursues, the more they're rewarded based on their effort. Because that's what acknowledgement is. Anyways, that's a beautiful verse. Ending with verse 12. In Christ, whose name the law could have no hold upon, began to preach unto the people. Well, it sounds like he's trying to teach people, right? Trying to invoke a greater level of understanding, this human, this concept, right? And but those, however, right? Because whose name, right? And whose name the law could have no hold upon, began to preach unto the people. But in the negative sense, those that were anti was korihor. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Korior. Coriander. Korihori. Maybe it's like Korior. Korier. I don't know. Crier. Ooh. Anti was korihor, and him that there should be no Christ. And after this did he preach, saying, right? Because if someone to show up, right, I guess those that are anti will say that there should be no Christ. And after this did he preach, saying, and then I stop there. So it's very intriguing and fascinating, right? The words of this book are so extraordinary. So I guess I'll end it there. That was pretty long. And I'm going to go find another one. I'm going to go ask ChatGPT what's another one I can do. Because again, I'm feeling inspired. I'm feeling inspired to have some fun whimsies in here. Okay. Peace be with you. Oh, and I learned, someone told me this. This is I got to work on it with both hands. Peace be with you. It originated from, did I talk about it in this one? Maybe I talked about it. It originated from Spock, Leonard Nimoy, got it because he was Jewish. He got it from a Jewish tradition. I guess this is a sign in Judaism. That's cool. So peace be with you.